Well, folks, in today's live stream, we're going to be trying to get this AHM RS11 running again. This was sent in nearly a year ago from a guy named Kurtz, and for whatever reason, it doesn't run. When I very first got this thing in the video, the first thing I thought was that it had some sort of a contact issue. You can kind of see they're out of place there. But after a further inspection, I realized I was wrong. The contacts are in place, but for whatever reason, this locomotive still is not getting power. So today we're going to try disassembling it. We're going to see if we can figure out what exactly the pickup issue is, and then we'll try to correct it here. I really don't know how this is going to go. I'm not so sure as to why exactly it's not picking up power. I do know with some of these older AHMs, they do have some brush issues occasionally, so I think that maybe that might be going on with this locomotive, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, we'll take this thing over to the track. I'll show you what it's doing just for the sake of it, and then we'll actually crack this thing open and then see if we can figure out what the roots of the problem are here. So let's begin. So I'm going to be surprised if this thing does any different. Maybe on camera, maybe it will. I don't know. Okay, so I'm now putting about 16 volts in the track right there. And you can see that, yeah, there's nothing going on. Just to verify that there's power in the track here. You can see those sparks, so there is power. It's just not picking it up. So we'll bring this back over to the bench and we'll start disassembling it. I'm really curious to see what's going on with it. I find these AHMs are usually fairly reliable locomotives. They certainly were not the highest quality of their time by any means, but they were more reliable in my opinion than, like, let's say a Lifelike or a Bachmann or a Tyco of the same era. And this is actually one of the nicer ones. It has all-wheel contacts, as you can see. So anyways, I'll get my screwdriver out here. I haven't opened one of these up before. That screw might be important. I don't know. We'll try these two bottom ones and we'll see if that causes it to come apart. It does look, by the way, like things are a little out of place. The back clip is broken, so there's a good chance that maybe somebody dropped this locomotive. Already got a whole bunch of people in the live stream chat. Welcome, everyone. Hope you're all having a good Saturday night here. And Bruce, the locomotive is deceased, but not to be sad. Harrison can bring it back to life. Well, we'll see about that. I hope so. If worst comes to worst, I have been successful at throwing new motors in these things, but I'd love to get it going with its original parts. Dark Lord Jetta. Hey, Harrison, thanks for the live stream. Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for the membership there. What's up today? Well, just see if we can get this old locomotive going here. We'll see if that freed anything up. Yep. Huh. Okay, so there's already a lot going on here. Let me break it down. First of all, I don't think that this is a stock AHM motor. This looks like a motor out of a 70s era Bachmann. It's one of the 5-poles. These are kind of notorious for failure, and it looks like somebody's gone and installed one of those with some sort of a linkage here, but the motor's completely loose, and we've got a loose wire here, here, here. There's one there, another loose wire here. So this just seems like a little bit too much damage for, you know, this to be an accident. Like, for a couple broken wires, that'd be normal. So to me, this looks like an abandoned project. Yeah, we definitely should have some sort of an adhesive or something holding the motor in place, though. Just having the shell on there is certainly not going to work that well. I don't know if it even really fits there. That weight looks like it's at a bit of a funny angle. So yeah, there's already a fair bit to unpack here. I think the first thing we should figure out is whether or not this motor even works, because these are kind of notorious for burning out. So we'll see if that's any good. It already feels like maybe the brushes are not making contact. I don't know. This one's got some tricks up its sleeve. All right, I got my not so trusty Tyco controller all ready to go here. Sorry about that. And let's just make sure we've actually got power. Yeah, plenty of sparks. I always do a little spark test. It's not great for your controller, but it does verify that power is getting to your leads, because what you don't want to be doing is diagnosing something and thinking that the motor or whatever you're working on is the problem, when in reality it's just not getting power. So, huh. It doesn't seem bad, honestly. Yeah, you know what? This motor's okay. That's great. Let's just, we'll throw some oil on it. The bearings definitely sounded quite dry. You know, you never know how long it's been since something like this was oiled, but yeah, I'm happy to see that. Like, it's actually just turning really well, which is surprising. You'll need a new motor mount for the form of wiring. Well, the wiring should be easy. I think for the motor mount, might just scuff this up. It looks like somebody already tried that, actually, but I don't know what kind of adhesive this is. They didn't put very much of it, so I think we'll throw some hot glue in there or something. I don't know. There's got to be a way that's a little bit better than this. Yeah, we'll let that oil work its way in here, and yeah, you can hear how much better that motor already sounds. And it's even got torque. Yeah, that's plenty strong. So I don't think we have to worry about the motor. For the time being, we'll kind of focus in here. Should also verify too that the drive shafts are actually not locked up. This one, yeah, it's turning fine. That's turning fine as well. So the motor really is just the issue here. Now the question is, how should this be all wired together? Now, I believe the motor was seated like this, and it does seem to fit okay there. So that should be fine. But I don't really know how, like, it was all intended to be wired up. Like, a lot of these wires don't even reach, which I think probably would, again, play into this whole abandoned project idea. Josh Cannon, today's my birthday. Happy birthday! I had this locomotive 2 years ago. It has a flashing light on the top of the cab. I have seen AHMs with that feature. I don't think that this one had it, but yeah, I believe you're right. I think some newer ones did have that as a feature. So I guess I'll go looking for some wire, and we'll see if we can kind of, I don't know, splice something together. I mean, I don't love all of this, honestly. But there's got to be a way we can make this look a little bit better. A little bit of solder and heat shrink can certainly go a long way with any project. SMT, how many locos are on the bench to be repaired? There's probably a good, I don't know, maybe 50. There's a whole, the whole cabinet over there is all for stuff that needs to get fixed. Whenever something breaks down, I throw it in there, and yeah, but they're all in, like, some of them run to some extent, others need a full repair, but yeah, there's never a shortage of projects around here. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go get my soldering iron and some wires and things like that. Just fix it. Yeah, that's the spirit. Get some solder here, and yeah, in my most recent video, I actually got some wire out of that lot there, so we'll throw some of that in there. Seems to be okay stuff, and the thing I really like about it is that it's free. Would you run old Tyco cars or engines? I do all the time on the channel. I mean, Tyco never really made the highest quality stuff, but if you're willing to work on old Tycos, like maintain them quite regularly, they usually need a lot of servicing, they can work. But I would never buy one with the expectation that it's going to be a very reliable locomotive. Let's do some wire stripping here. Greetings from New York. Welcome. How many locomotives do you own? I think somewhere around 500 locomotives. I got a couple links of wire here, and what I'm kind of thinking is that we just sort of like link these together, you know what I mean? So we soldered both of those together, and then right in the middle we soldered that. And then on the opposite side, we do something sort of similar. So we have these two wires kind of link up. I want to make sure that the wires have slack though, because all this needs to turn. And if you make these too tight, it can actually affect how well that turns. So that's the situation we don't want to get into with working on this. I'm just going to go see if I have some better cutters around here. I definitely do have some wire cutters. I just don't remember where I put them. I cleaned up the basement the other day. Okay, well, these are not wire cutters, but they should work well enough. Is there any N-scale engine in particular you would like? Not really. I actually just bought a whole bunch of N-scale stuff at a train show. There's going to be a video out about that in a couple months. What track is good for DCC? Anything that's like nickel silver. It doesn't really matter what brand, but yeah, nickel silver is going to be the best because, I mean, I have some parts of my layout that are brass, and like they do work with DCC, but DCC is definitely a little more picky when it comes to the type of track you use. So yeah, it's going to be best if you can, you know, use higher quality track. I was wrong about the cutters on these being all that great. They're just kind of squishing the wire. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and just take off all the ends because all the solder and stuff that's on here right now is not that great. Plus, it probably has lead in it, which I'm not a huge fan of, so away it goes. I also find, too, if you start with a fresh cut and then when you're splicing, you know, you're less likely to run into issues there, too, so it helps a lot of things. To convert a DC engine to DCC is a really easy thing. There are a few videos online on how to do that. Yeah, it definitely doesn't have to be a huge process. I mean, on some locomotives that are like kind of naturally grounded, where like, you know, like a motor like this is naturally grounded. So instead of two wires going to it, it like sits on the body and the body is positively charged. So you have to remove a contact like this and then wire it and then wire something to the body to be in between there. But fundamentally what you want to do whenever you're wiring up DCC is you want the decoder to go between the motor and the rest of the locomotive. So any wires or anything that's connecting to the motor all needs to go through the decoder, and then whatever was connected to the motor before goes to the decoder. So it kind of acts as a middleman. I'm feeling this wire is going to be a bad one. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Have you watched RBP Trains before? Yeah, I've watched RBP Trains. In fact, he actually, in the last live stream, was doing a collaboration on the channel, so that was really cool. And I spoke with Chris beforehand, too. I gotta say, he's a really nice guy. Okay, so I think I've got every wire all spliced up here, so now we're gonna do some soldering. So I just want to kind of figure out how I want to solder all of this together. So we'll join those two wires together. I might cut this one back a little bit, and then yeah, we'll try to kind of link them like that. We just don't need, like, you know, this much slack, I don't think. So we'll pull a little bit of that away. Thank you for the Super Chat Gaming Spartan. About to strip paint with methanol spirits. Any tips? I wouldn't be the guy to ask about that, but maybe there are some people in the chat who know some stuff they can tell you about stripping paint. I've never really been an expert with paints. I mean, I've had a few projects where I've done some painting, and I'm very happy with the results, but I'm by no means an expert, that's for sure. Okay, I'm just gonna grab my box of heat shrink tubing, and we'll start MacGyvering this all together here. Any plans on going to Miniature Wonderland in Hamburg, Germany someday? At some point in my life, I would love to visit there. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but yeah, I'd really love to see that place. I remember the first time I saw a video of Miniature Wonderland, and I was just stunned. SMT, tell me your top 3 least favorite train manufacturers. I think my least favorite overall, one of them would probably be Bachmann. I'm not sure what the other ones would be. I'd have to think about that. And I don't hate Bachmann. Like, you know, a lot of people say I just hate on Bachmann. It's not a hatred towards Bachmann. I just don't love, like, you know, the level of quality relative to their price. It's like, you know, I'm totally fine with cheap locomotives. Like, I'm a huge fan of Lifelike, and Lifelike did not make very high quality locomotives either. But, you know, I just feel like they were priced appropriately. And Bachmann's at one point were a really good brand. Like, by the end of the 2000s, Bachmann had totally, you know, smoked Lifelike. Like, they were making higher quality train sets at a similar price and stuff. And then the second, like, Lifelike went out of business, they just, like, started going crazy with their prices. And now I find they just kind of keep releasing the same stuff over and over and over again. And they charge a fortune for it. Do you like Athearn? I'm a pretty big fan of Athearn, especially older Athearn stuff. I mean, I think Athearn still makes decent products, but it's the kind of the late 60s to the 2000s, like the blue box era. I love that stuff. And it's not the most realistic out there by any means, but the thing I like about it is you can find those engines really cheap, and they just run forever. 80s and 90s era Bachmann sucks. Yeah, but well, that's the funny thing about Bachmann is, like, their very first locomotives were actually better than what they came out with later on. Like, the first generation Bachmanns had, like, a metal frame, and they had 5-pole motors. It's actually this exact type of motor right here. And a really simple drive. Like, they're actually, you know, pretty nice to work on. They did have some problems, but they were fundamentally a much better drive before Kadee bought them out and, you know, cheapened everything up. Apparently, Bachmann had been losing money before Kadee bought them, though, so I don't know if, you know, Kadee kind of had to do that out of necessity. You know, it's easy to look at what Kadee did with Bachmann and be like, oh, what a terrible company. Like, why would they do that to them? But at the same time, is it better for a company to go out of business than to start manufacturing a bad product? I don't know. SMT, how do you establish which pole on the motor is positive? Is it marked on the housing? I don't know, to be honest with you. It's kind of hard to say too, just like most people, they don't have like a positive or negative because the polarity of the track can always change by flipping the direction. I know what some people do is they measure it by which side of the rail. So you have like a north side and the south side of the rail, and then you say, okay, so like the red wire's the south side and the black wire's the north side, and then they trace where that goes. So I guess you could do something like that. Maybe then you could determine like which side most engines pick up their power from. So once in a while you will get an engine that's wired backwards. Okay, so I'm actually not going to insulate that one part right there because we're going to solder that on there. So really the only part we need to isolate is like this last bit. So we're going to chop off a little more wire here. I don't know what kind of rubber they used on these wires, but it's really tricky to strip it away. You need to get an NNJ or A class. I'd be open to it. Hey SMT, if Bachmann remade the Santa Fe Northern they did a long time ago, would you buy it? The one that came in the freight set? Probably not, to be honest. Again, just because of their prices. I'm going to resolder this as well because that doesn't look like it flooded properly last time. Casey Hudson, if you save the extra wire that comes with DCC decoders, then reuse it for projects like this one, it's really thin wire and perfect for compact engines. Yeah, that's a very good point. I try not to throw away too much wire. Whenever I'm like recycling anything, I usually try to pull it apart and save as many materials as I can. There's a lesson I learned from my grandfather who grew up on a farm during the Depression. He was born in 1930, so, you know, the Depression had just started and stuff, and one thing he had learned very young is that you never throw away hardware. So I've kind of inherited that, so now whenever I'm about to throw something out, I check to see if there are any, like, screws or anything attached, and, you know, it's not the prettiest thing having all these jars full of random screws, but I tell you what, it pays dividends, because that one time where you need a special screw, you've already got it on hand and you don't have to go to the hardware store. So there definitely are benefits to that kind of thinking. What gauge is your favorite to work with? In terms of scales, I really like HO the most. I mean, every scale has its benefit. Like with N scale, you can create a crazy amount of stuff, and with O scale, the trains have more life than the HO ones do. But I kind of feel like HO is just a nice blend of the two, where everything's still big enough that you can see it pretty well, but small enough that you can, you know, build a decent sized layout without taking up too much space. What's the easiest HO train you've made? Probably the roundhouse kit I built a few years ago. That was a pretty straightforward project. As sloppy as the wire was when you started, I believe it would have stripped out, and I believe I would have stripped that all out and just run a new wire long enough not to have joints in the middle. Yeah, that's certainly an option. The only thing about that is that you'd have to solder to these points right here. And I mean, these were attached into the body with plastic, so trying to solder on them, it's a little bit iffy. You can pull them out, but the thing is the metal is very fragile, so if you bend this to pull it out, it might not go back into place. So, yeah, there are, I see the point, but when you're working with old stuff, you never know how cooperative it's going to be on the way back. What I probably shouldn't have done is stripped away so much of this wire right here. I think that that's going to bite me a little bit, but yeah, what can you do? SMT, I was wondering if you have any Alaska Railroad trains. The tracks run by my house. They are the tracks that run by my house when the Heritage unit comes by. I've got an Alaska Railroad snowplow set. I think that that might have been sent in the same video as this locomotive, actually. Yeah, it's really cool. It's got a rotating plow on the front. I don't have much from Alaska Railroad, but I do like it just because it was the railroad that they used locomotives from in the 1985 movie Runaway Train. Despite what some people say too, I really like that movie. Elite 194 on YouTube produces a lot of videos on HO scale locomotive upgrades. Yeah, Elite's been around for a long time. He's made quite a few videos on the old Tychos and stuff too. Pretty good content. I think he even did some content on some of the Fratelli locomotives, which is that Brazilian brand I was doing some videos on about a year ago. So I'm unsure if I should try attaching the motor right now and then solder all of this up. That might seem counterproductive, but the thing is I feel like it might be harder to get the drive shafts in place and seat the motor in some sort of an adhesive with this all soldered together. So I think I'll do that. Harrison, the big boy is coming to town on the 6th. I'm going. I also want to put a quarter on the track for the first Heritage unit, Canadian Pacific 7016. That sounds like fun. Do you have any experience with S gauge? It's halfway between HO and O. It's the only scale I collect. I never have worked with S scale. I've seen it before at like antique stores, and I think one benefit to it is that since it's not a very common scale, if you can find some of it, it's usually not going for a lot of money because it's not the most desired out there. I don't have anything against it. I just I've never just felt the need to buy any. So I'll have to see. Yeah, the motor was pretty well positioned, actually. Just going to temporarily pull it out while the glue gun heats up, and we'll see how... Yeah. Okay, so there's our problem. That adhesive is no bueno. It looks like the material... like the plastic on the bottom here, nobody scored that. Well, there's a problem. The screw is a couple turns in too deep, and it was actually like scraping up against the motor, which could also be a problem with how well this is all seated together. So yeah, I'm just gonna really kind of scrape up all this. Just really give that glue something to bite into so that hopefully this doesn't come undone. How do you feel about G-Scale? I collect G-Scale for a while, but I had to stop due to space. G-Scale is a lot of fun, but yeah, I think that's probably the #1 thing that comes to mind with it. I think the only thing I really like about G-Scale over the other scales is that it's actually rated for the outdoors. So if you're, you know, into gardening and stuff, you can incorporate both your hobbies, which is something that I really like. I mean, you know, you technically could run HO or O scale trains outside, but whether or not they're going to last very long, I don't know. Yeah, whatever adhesive was used is clearly not that good. Does your daylight still run? Yeah, it still goes. Doesn't run great. It has a bit of a quartering issue, but other than that, that's a fine locomotive. Hopefully that will be enough to get this all into place here. Opinions on T-gauge. I don't really know anything about T-gauge, or is it TT? I don't know. I'm not trying to like judge anybody who, you know, picks a scale like TT or Z scale, but I feel like those scales, it's so small you can hardly see the trains themselves. I mean, it's kind of cool from the standpoint that, you know, when you're walking over a layout, you're almost looking at it from like the perspective of somebody on a plane. But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like N scale, in my opinion, that's about as small as you should go. Why don't you use your Instagram anymore? The Instagram is still active. I don't post pictures on it very often, but in terms of messages on stuff, I'm almost on there every day. Is it AC or DC coming out of the accessory terminals on a transformer? It's AC power. In some rare cases, like on the MRC Tech 39500, there is a constant DC voltage, but most of the time it's AC. And the reason for that is, you got your transformer, so that takes your 120 volts out of the wall, steps it down to 18 volts, let's just say. And then the section that goes to track goes through a rectifier, and the other side just goes straight to the accessories terminal. So there's no rectifier, and there's also no device to control the voltage. So it's just spitting out as much voltage as the transformer puts out. See if that's getting... That's pretty hot there. It's getting there. Universal motor mount. Oh yeah, you know it. Have you ever put a model train kit together before? I have a Z-scale set. It's pretty cool, but very small. Yeah, I put together a roundhouse kit once. Roundhouse steam locomotive. I bought another kit at a train show not that long ago, so there's definitely going to be another steam locomotive build. I think what I would really like to try doing is building a diesel kit. I think that would probably be a little bit easier than one of the steam kits out there. All right, it's time to make the scary move. Just dump a whole bunch of hot glue down there. Let's make sure these are going into place. I just gotta let that fall down there, and then just want to make sure we're all centered. Well, to me, that looks right on the money. And we've got to just kind of twist tail these two wires and then pull in the wires on here, and we'll just kind of solder all that together. I'll throw another piece of heat shrink tubing on there before I forget to. Does your grandma's Hiawatha still run? Oh yeah. I don't run it terribly often just because it is like such a precious locomotive. I don't really want to like risk breaking it, but it still goes. It's kind of doing the best it ever has, really, with all the upgrades it got back in the spring. Sorry, I joined about 12 minutes after the stream started. So what is the model's age? I think they started making these sometime towards the 70s. So this was probably made in the 80s or 90s. So we'll say 30, 40 years. What was your hardest model trying to fix? Probably the RS3 that I worked on. It was, I think, a Hobby Town. That thing was an absolute nightmare. That one almost broke me. Like, there were several times while I was filming that video where it was so bad that I was like, I don't know, I think I'm just wasting my time here. I'm gonna put more and more effort into this thing. Like, it starts to become the sunken cost fallacy, and I was like, maybe I should just cut my losses. But I decided just to keep trying to, you know, get it going again, and eventually it worked out. But those parts, it was a kit that was improperly assembled, and then somebody had just drowned the whole thing in oil, and then it had sat for probably 40 or 50 years in a damp environment. So it's just like the worst combinations all around. Things were just not set up well for that locomotive. So I was having to undo bad work, and I was having to undo, you know, years of everything sitting and stuff, and it just made for a very challenging build. I can't tell you how happy I was, though, once I finally got that locomotive running again. That's the one thing about a challenge. It's like, it's a devil to overcome, but once you do, it sure feels good. This is a little bit tricky. Just gonna bring this a little bit closer. What was the easiest locomotive you've repaired? No particular one comes to mind, but I've had it. There have been locomotives where I've started to work on them, like as a video, and I've just stopped filming because the repair was just like a broken wire or something like that, and they didn't need anything else. And it's just so simple that I'm like, I don't even know if people would want to watch this. Yeah, I kind of figured cutting that wire short was gonna burn me here, and I think I'm seeing the results of that now. Bend that back a little more just so we have some space to work with. I'm just gonna try to kind of twist that around there. Okay. Let's solder that while it's still holding together. If it's just a broken wire, make them into a short. Yeah, well, for some simple repairs, like for repairs that I speculate will be simple, that probably will be what happens with them. The only problem is that, like, if you start filming a video horizontally and you want to make it into a short, it's really hard to convert the footage over. It is possible, but you have to zoom it in like crazy and stuff. So There have been videos where I've done that, and they look okay, but it's just not as good as an actual planned out short where they're, you know, filmed the right way, right from the get-go. Okay, well, I think that all looks okay now, so I guess we'll just kind of shrink all the heat shrink here and throw this thing on the track, see if it actually works. I'm sure it still needs a wheel cleaning and some other stuff, but I just want to see if we can actually just get this thing moving under its own power before we go put in more effort into it. I gotta pack all this stuff away too. That's gonna be interesting. I might end up removing that weight, honestly. Okay. Let's see if any of that stuff works. Uh-oh. It's shorted. So was I not paying attention while I was wiring? Yeah, I made a mistake. So I'll tell you where I went wrong on this. And I should have noticed this earlier, but I messed up a little bit here. So the wires are color coordinated. I should not have trusted that. I was naive. If you look at where this red wire goes, it comes up, goes right here, goes down to this. And if you look at the other bank, it flips and goes the other way. So this thing is entirely wired backwards. Now, that might not be the end of the world, because these wires are okay. It doesn't really matter. It's just the trucks they're working against each other right now. And since I wired up these two wires, all we have to do is simply remove the junk. And we just need to flip those wires around. And I think that will fix it. Yeah, that was a rookie mistake on my part. Yeah, we're just gonna remove that whole section right there. I'll do the same here because it needs to be re-stripped anyway. Before I go soldering anything too, I think what I'm gonna do is probably just test it on the track while the wires are just tied together. How's NerfCat going? Does he still climb up on the layout? He hasn't been up in a long time. I think because once I raised the layout, it made it a little bit harder for him to climb up. Outside of that, he's doing fine. I mean, he's aging quite a bit. I find it starting to show. But he's living a good life. He spends most of his days just snoozing out on the porch, and we bring him all kinds of different food and give him scratches and stuff like that. So as long as he's a happy cat, that's all that really matters to all of us. See, now I'm running into the situation that I did not want to get into, which is over-shortening the wires and causing stuff not to turn properly. But let's just see first if this actually works. Yeah, see, that's too short right there, so that's going to need to change. It looks like it's time to invest in some side cutters and strippers. I have a set, I just can't locate them. But I think this time we're not going to have a short circuit. Doesn't also feel like that's turning all that well, but we'll work on that in a moment here. Hey! Okay, well that's really good. Without even cleaning the wheels she's running, so that's a good sign. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is we're going to resolder this top wire here. That stuff's just no good, and then we'll extend that, connect the red wire, so on and so forth. And given the fact that it can run just on like 3 sets of contacts, once we get the 4th set of contacts in here, it should be even better. I remember back in the days when these live streams had like 20 people watching. Yeah, it's crazy how much things have changed. What kind of rubber bands do you recommend for a band drive motor? Some hobby shops sell genuine Athearn bands. If you can get those, they're the best. They're going to last a lot longer. But I find you can also use rainbow loom bands. Most stores sell those. Most stores sell those. They're meant for making bracelets and things like that. So you can find them there. The only problem is I don't find they last very long. They seem to dry rot really quickly. I think it's a reaction to the plastic or the oil. What should I do if my locomotive smells like burning plastic when it runs? Well, first of all, I'd probably stop running it until you've located the problem. Usually a burning smell is associated with the commutator. I find that's usually where some funky smells are coming from. But it could also be that the drive is locked up and the motor is working too hard and the coils are overheating. So that could be a problem. And if it's a newer engine and it has DCC and stuff, if your motor has a problem and it's pulling too many amps, it could be putting strain in. It could be the decoder burning up. So I'd investigate all those areas and then go from there. Yeah, okay, this is starting to come together here. Would have been nice if I got it right on the first time, but well, you can't always have what you want. Yeah, we'll strip that back a little further. Yeah, that should be fine. SMT was testing us for the wiring crossover. We all fail. I wish I was that clever. That's usually the go-to for when somebody messes something up. They just say, just a prank, bro. You've been tricked. What happened to G-Skill trains? I can't find them anymore. I wouldn't know if G-Skill has changed. Ultimate wiring prank by AHM. Yeah, there was some guy in Yugoslavia, and he knew that in 40 years there'd be a guy trying to make a YouTube video with the train he was working on, and he flipped the colors of the wires just to mess with me. It's a little hot. Let me just run that there. We'll connect those up. I'm going to test this a second time, even though we already kind of checked in to make sure that, you know, this was all wired correctly. The first wire wasn't long enough, so I just want to make sure everything is good before we go soldering stuff up, because I'd really hate to kind of repeat history here and have to undo all this. Oh, good. The back truck has loosened up too, so that's a good sign. Still looks pretty good to me. I thought I saw a light around here somewhere too. Maybe I could throw that in there. Yeah, let's really kind of push the limit. Do you keep all the locomotives you repair, or do you sell some? With some of the locomotives I've bought off eBay, I have sold them after I've done a repair, but most of the time I just give them away. Last March I did a huge giveaway at a train show, and I've done a few giveaways here on the channel as well, so I don't know, it's just kind of nice. If somebody can make better use of them, why not, right? Would you rather heat shrink than have used liquid electrical tape? I haven't worked with liquid electrical tape in a really long time. I mean, it's effective stuff. I just find it kind of messy. I mean, not that I'd be one to talk about mess, but yeah, the nice thing about the heat shrink is I find it just tidies everything up a little bit. Have you ever seen the channel Scott Rails? Yeah, I've watched Scott Rails. I like his videos. Have you ever seen the channel Millennium Force? I haven't seen any of his videos in a long time, but yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. I was talking with a guy. I'm trying to remember the name of the store. What was that place called? Zetnik Trains. I think that was the name. It was some store in Florida, and he had the guy who runs Millennium Force, he had been there a couple times and filmed some videos. So I remember back when I'd mentioned, when I was filming my video of that store, I'd mentioned that I run a YouTube channel, and he was like, "Oh, have you seen Millennium Force? He comes in here all the time." Are you going to do another unboxing video soon? Definitely so. I've actually already filmed the next mail unboxing video. I just haven't filmed the second part where I test all the equipment out, but it is in production. I can say that for sure. Okay. Do you do repairs for people's old Tyco stuff? Generally, I don't do repairs that involve shipping, just because I've run into some different problems with that. But I once in a while I do repairs for people, like especially if it's something local where it doesn't involve the whole shipping, where things can get lost and so on. So yeah, I'm not like close to the idea. I just it makes me a little bit nervous. I'm gonna break somebody's family heirloom. Like if I'm working on a piece of junk I bought off eBay, as far as I'm concerned, it's already been destroyed by somebody else. So if I make it any worse, I don't really care about that. But when you're working with something that actually could mean something to someone, I just don't like the idea that, things could go really wrong with that. Not that it's like a super common thing where I screw up an engine so bad it never runs again, but there is a risk. I remember Zetnik Trains. That place sounds amazing. It was a really good store. I was quite impressed. The amount of stuff they had there was amazing. So I just realized I thought I could back this wire onto here and just kind of move it forward, but there wasn't enough room on this side, and now I have to go back the other way. So I'm not really sure what I want to do with that. I mean, I could unsolder this and just try to get both wires through there at the same time. Not that like an open electrical wire like this really has much to short on in here, but it'd just be better to get this done right and not have a problem with this engine at some point in the future. Okay, so we got that all good to go. Do you remember when Tyco did a US-1 electric trucking set? I don't know if I've seen that. I'll have to look that up later. That sounds great. Tyco is a funny company. I mean, they were kind of making a little bit of everything. I think they also had like a knockoff of Lego, and they had slot cars, and I think they made even like a kid's phone that looked like Garfield or something. Like they were. If there was something you wanted, if you were around in the 70s, 80s, maybe even, well, I think they were gone by the 90s, but back then I feel like Tyco had it. It's too bad they didn't stick around. I mean, they're a controversial company in the model railroading community, and I can kind of see why, but it would have been interesting to see, like, if Tyco had survived, what kind of products they would have come out with going into the 90s and into the 2000s. People can say what they want about Tyco not being a high quality manufacturer, so on and so forth, but they definitely did have an influence on the hobby, especially just getting people into it. Like I've heard so many stories from people who say, "Oh, I used to have a Tyco set," or sometimes I'll have people comment on a video. They'll say like, I'm not into model trains anymore, but when I was a kid, I had a Tyco set and it had this exact locomotive. I can't believe I just got a video of it in my recommended feed. So it's funny, funny how it works like that. Tyco is short for toy company. Yeah, I think that that's true. I've heard from a lot of people that it was Consolidated Foods that really screwed them up. Because before then, I guess, they were like, it was Tyco Mantua who, were making pretty good products in my opinion. And apparently Consolidated Foods came in and they really wanted just to kind of cheap everything up. And that's where they did a lot of damage to their brand. And lately, I've been looking into some of the lore about Tyco having been, some disgruntled Tyco employees leaving to go to Pemco. Darth Santa Fe was talking about Pemco on his channel, which is sort of interesting. I mean, maybe that's what Tyco would have kind of turned into. Like, let's say in another world, those employees didn't become disgruntled. They stayed with the company. The company didn't go under. Maybe we would have seen something similar to Pemco. Because Pemco's existence was not terribly long either. Okay, I think overall this is starting to look okay. Not sure if I should try to secure that light in place or not, but I think we'll take it over to the track. We'll see how it's running. See if all this wiring can fit with that weight. I don't think it can. I think that this motor might be taller than the original, but let's try it anyway, I guess. And the back clip off the motor just broke off. That's nice. Yeah, I don't like that. What thickness of solder do you use? 3 millimeter? I think the body is a little bit warped. Oh well, let's take it over to the track. Let's see how it runs. The truck is doing funny stuff again. See if I can get the tripod a little bit higher here. That's good enough. You can also test locomotives with a 9-volt battery by placing it on the pickup wheels. It works with some locomotives. If they have all-wheel pickup, that will work, but like on a Tyco engine, that won't work because they pick up half their power from one side and the other half from the other. But yeah, I mean, it can be a handy thing to know. If you go to a train show, you can ask somebody, hey, do you mind if I test this? And you don't have to bring a controller or anything else. Well, I guess the track was aligned for the mountain layout. It's definitely derailed. Now it's gotten stuck somewhere in the tunnel. Let me go see if I can get that moving again here. Well, it seems to run pretty well. The only problem with it is that this rear truck is kind of jamming up. I think that could be due to the wiring. So let's try to reconfigure that. Sorry, let's try to reconfigure that and see if we can make that a little bit better. Got a runner. I'd say so. It's definitely close. I just want to get this thing actually doing full laps around the layout. So, yeah, this has been modified, that's for sure. Does not look like factory wiring there. But anyways, the problem right here is, you know, like at first glance, this doesn't really look like a problem. But you see how that wire is just kind of mashing up between the trucks? So this is actually not turning as far as it's supposed to. So what we need to do is remove this clip right here. Let me just get flatheads, and then we'll get that out of the way. This engine runs fine, and then it goes into a corner, and then it derails or it loses power because it is not positioned properly. So we'll try to fix that. And I wonder why that happened. I think I left enough slack at least to fix the issue. I might have to pull the truck out of the engine to do this. Yeah, it is a little awkward, I'm not gonna lie, but let's put that there. Did it go the other way? It doesn't want to reclip. What the heck? Oh. Okay, I think I see what the problem is. Sort of like a little tunnel, which is supposed to hold these wires like dead center. So let's see if I reposition those a little bit. If it will all just clip together. Yeah, clipped on the other side. Yeah. Now that's turning in its full range, so that's good. Let's put that there. We'll see if it will do a full lap for us this time. I think I broke something. See, Serenity. I'm not saying Serenity just yet. I think I must have dislodged one of the drive shafts because it had a crazy amount of wheel slip. I bet when I removed that front truck, yeah, I knocked the drive shaft out of place. Oh well, not a big deal. And one thing leads to another, right? I'm going to have to be careful when I reassemble this to make sure I get the wires all back in the same spot. Okay, this is the third test. We got 3 times the charm. Good things are going to come our way. Yeah, that's more like it. This thing is pretty bloody fast. That's half throttle right there. I love it. When it comes down the straightaway, we're gonna put the hammer down and see what this thing can really do. All right, full throttle. Watch it just fly off the track and destroy all the work over the last hour. This is awesome. I like this. This is a good locomotive. I've never seen one of those Bachmann motors run this well. I guess the gearing must just be a little more optimal for it, but yeah, that's fantastic. Serenity. Yeah, no kidding. So we'll just do a few more little modifications here. First of all, I want to secure the light in place because that is way down yonder, and we'll try to see if we can get that. I think I'm just going to glue it, honestly. Glue that in place. It would be nice to get some weight in it, although, again, the original weight didn't really work out so well, so I don't know where I'm going to put that. I mean, maybe I could, like, lodge, like, a nut or something on either side. I don't expect this thing to pull very much. Even with this weight, the pulling capacity would be nothing terrific, but it'd be nice if it just had, like, a little more. I wonder if I pushed the weight right to the back of the locomotive, if it would fit. Maybe if we put it right there. Does you see how, like, if you line this up, you see how it kind of misses the motor? So these wires might get pushed, but I think it will clear that. Turbocharged Bachmann drive RS11. That's the fastest AHM RS11 I've ever seen. AHM Mahanos were great. Locos, I have several. I mean, they're just so darn simple. Like, they're great. They're kind of like just a cheaper version of the old blue boxes. Like, they don't have the nice metal frames or anything like that. They're not fancy, but I find the things that really only fail on them are the motors. The motors, and once in a while you'll have a bent wiper or something like that, but in terms of catastrophic failure, I don't find the gearboxes usually fail. What controllers are you using? I'm using a MRC Tech 3 9500 series. We can just get this, oh yeah. Let's get this weight as far back as possible. I'm wondering if I should try to, like, glue something metal, like, in the top of the cab too, just to really, like, add as much weight to this thing as possible. All that's important here is that there's enough slack that the wires can turn as this thing goes around corners. And I don't know if this is a good idea, but I've got a junk Athearn flywheel. If we could somehow just kind of glue that down there, as long as it doesn't interfere with anything, should make this a darn good puller. It's nice and scored up. Do the same thing to the inside of the shell here if I can find something a little bit longer. Yeah, the weight might help bring it down that top speed a little bit. I mean, it's got some nice couplers on it, like, you know, with a little bit of work, it could be a decent puller here. Drop that down there. I have the very same model power MRC 9500. They're terrific controllers. It's probably the best DC controller on the market. I think the only way you could get a controller better than that is if you scratch built one. Maybe then you can make something a little bit better. But in terms of like you know, commercial controllers, I think it's pretty much as good as it gets. Oh yeah, that fits really well. And the trucks still turn fine, so I don't think that those are going to interfere with each other. Yeah, all right. Well, let's see how all that likes to party together, and then, yeah, if it's good, we'll screw the shell back down, and we'll be able to call it a day, and we'll actually be able to, like, haul some cars with this thing. I'm going to be a little bit careful, a little more careful with the top speed here, because it is now a little bit more of a top-heavy locomotive. Let's see what kind of low speed we've got. So that's at about 3 volts right there, and it is cogging pretty bad, but it's not stalling. And we're down to 2.5 volts. I think maybe that is where it locks up. Yeah, it doesn't like the 2.5 volts. Okay, good. It runs nice. For what it is, that's pretty good. It's not too loud either, which is really nice to see. So I think now the only things I would like to take care of are, I've got to reattach the shell, and I also just want to have a quick gander through the gearboxes. Since this thing's running pretty well, I don't think we're going to see anything too nasty in the gearboxes, but it's always a good idea to check. I mean, they're nearly spotless. Let's have a look inside this one as well. Yeah, all looks fine to me. I'll throw some fresh oil in there for good luck, but honestly, it probably doesn't even need it. Did I mix these trucks up? Is that what's going on here? Tyco by today's standards is junk. However, they certainly are nostalgic and some would argue collectible. I suspect that the Tyco locomotives, which are in good condition, might actually start to gain some value. Like a Tyco that's brand new in the box, I feel like one day, I don't think it's going to be, those are ever really going to be worth like insane money, like into the thousands of dollars, but I could see really pristine ones going for a couple $100 at some point. So I think what's probably going to happen is a lot of the people who grew up with them, you know, in the 70s and 80s, once they retire, they might get back into model railroading, and then they'll probably want to buy their childhood train, but maybe not a junker, like one that's in good shape. So if that happens, I could see some of the nicer ones going up in value a little bit. I mean, that's pretty much what happened with, you know, all the like Lionel stuff, all the pre-war Lionel. Apparently at one point that stuff was not worth a whole lot of money, and today some of it goes for quite a pretty penny. Okay, so that's good. Now I'll just get my track bright here, and we'll clean up the wheels. They're not even that bad, but we'll just do them for the sake of it. Do you have a cursed K? What's that? I had better luck with model power AHM trains. They ran better than Tyco. I tend to agree. I think from a reliability standpoint, AHM definitely did make better products. They weren't as exciting. Like, Tyco really has the edge. No other company made sets like the Golden Eagle and the, you know, what's the other one called there? The Silver Streak. Some of them did have Centennial locomotives, similar to the Spirit of 76 and so on, but in terms of making some pretty cool locomotives, I think Tyco had the upper hand there. See if we got power. I think I plugged in the wrong thing here. Yeah, there we go. This thing has actually got some decent torque. This whole electrical system I got rigged up here is not great, but well, it needs to get these wheels all polished up, and you know, I think we can call it a day at that point. Do you have a cursed brass locomotive? I don't know. I've got that weird, I don't even know if you would call it brass. A weird engine I bought a few months ago off eBay. I didn't throw it out or anything. Let's see if I can clamp onto the connection like through the truck here. I don't know if this is going to work, but... Oh yeah, okay. That's a much smarter way to do this. Yeah, there we go. The thing sounds like it's ready to race. I tend to agree. Okay, I think we can officially call this thing, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Let me just quickly throw the screws in for the shell, and then I think after that we can officially call this thing complete. Did I lose the screws? Oh, wait. No, they're right here. Next project, make the fastest train ever. That'd be a fun project. I would need to find a low resistance drive, probably similar to this, and then just throw some sort of a motor that could really over rev. Maybe a lower voltage motor, like if I could find a 6-volt motor and then just overclock it. That's one thing I will say about DC motors is that, you know, it's not really good to be giving them more voltage than they're intended to have, but they will run with more voltage than they're supposed to have for quite a long time. Did you do the BNSF-9 scale trains giveaway? Yeah, I did. This guy, Darren Thickens from Australia, ended up winning it, and I actually just got that shipped out a couple days ago. What's interesting is even though he and his son are from Australia, apparently they're huge fans of BNSF, and they have a whole BNSF section of their layout, so it's going to fit right in with their collection, which is pretty cool. It seems to run about as well as it did before, but I'm glad we serviced the wheels anyway. This thing is a racing locomotive. Okay, I let off the throttle and it's still tipped over. So, yeah, I better quit fooling around with it, or else I'm going to sell this thing right off the layout. But what I do want to find out is, now that we've added weight to it, can it pull the go-kart set? It's kind of a tall order. Those cars are pretty heavy, but let's see if she'll do it. Okay, we might have a problem here. Yeah, the coupler box is loose, and I think the coupler is also bent, but maybe if I just bend it back, it'll be like a good enough height to... Yeah, that's not good. What about on the other side? I'm gonna get this out of the way. I'm just gonna see if one of the other passenger car sets has maybe got a coupler which is at a better height for this. Whoops. Hold on a moment. Let me just check on something here. Something just fell off my workbench over there. I thought somebody was breaking in. Yeah, let me just find another train. See if it will work. Could try to shim that coupler up a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. So close. Back to the drawing board, I guess. It tows with speed and power. Yeah, you don't need torque. You just give it all the voltage, and it's good to go. So I reckon that if I can just get like a little piece of plastic under the rear coupler, probably make this work. Like it's just that like little, well, I mean the coupler right is probably not great to begin with, but I think if we could just clear that like little bit of slack right there, could probably make this work. Well, I broke the coupler, so it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, so we just need to add, oh, well, maybe this is just bent. Should I dare trying to somehow apply heat to this and bend it back into place? You see how it's just kind of warped like down this way? I feel like I'm gonna end up breaking something off of this. I don't know. Put a cardboard shim under the coupler. That would work. Trying to think if I have something that could heat up the plastic just enough. I would try that myself, but I would stop if I was gonna think I was gonna screw it up. I'd be very careful. Kadee sells high shelf couplers to raise the height of the coupler without using shims. And somebody said CN's RS10s used to pull their tempo trains. Rapido made a CN tempo set. So I mean, like this is basically going to be a factory model if we can get it to pull that train. Hair dryer. I don't think a hair dryer. I have a heat gun. I'm just worried it would, like I need the heat to be really localized. That's the thing. Let me see if I have a lighter or something. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have a lighter on my workbench. I might have one somewhere upstairs. I was trying to think. I feel like there's got to be a simple solution. The only risk is that if I bugger this thing up bad enough, this might not go back into place, and then the whole project is kind of screwed up. So, you know, I do have to be kind of mindful about what I do here. Yeah, I guess I'll grab my heat gun. We'll see if we can do that. Don't do it, it may melt the plastic. Well, melting the plastic is the goal. I just don't want to go too far with this. I mean, this heat gun is not even that strong, so... Let's see if that... Nope, not there yet. I'm not aiming it directly on the plastic. I'm just trying to kind of get it just to hit the side here. Everyone close your eyes. It's getting close. Really, really close. See if that did a good enough job or not. Brave, brave guy, Harrison. Brave is one word, foolish is another. Yeah, I think it worked. Styrene strips, washers, anything except glue or heat. Well, we'll see here. The thing is, from the factory, it might have been the right height, and it might have just warped over time, so... I don't know. Let me see if I can find another Bachmann coupler or something here. That one will work. You could add a Tyco coupler to it. That's an idea. Well, let me get the wheels back in here first. I think somebody added wipers to this. It's just weird that they're like different sizes and everything. Yeah, I don't know if that was significant enough. Let me see if I can find something. I have this stuff. Needs a few washers. I don't know if I have any. Let me have a look. So another kind you're talking about, the little red ones. Oh, maybe I do have a couple. I see at least one. Okay, well that's better than nothing there, Scoob, but are there any more? Add some duct tape. Red Green would like that. I'll have a look through the other part bin and see if maybe there was some in there. It's not the right kind, but it might be the solution. These are all the things that kind of go on while I'm filming these videos behind the scenes. I'm looking for that. Well, I don't know if it's enough, but let's try it out here. Hopefully it will get the job done. I know the coupler is too low and high. It doesn't get centered between the two couplers unless I'll have a tendency to come on a couple of snagging switches. Yeah, exactly. That is the problem. This whole kind of design with the truck too is so complicated. Should I try throwing this thing in there? It's made of steel too, so it's kind of magnetic. I don't know if this is going to work, but I guess I'll try it anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not sagging as much as it was before, but I don't know. I mean, fundamentally, maybe the coupler box is just too low. I mean, really, just mounting a Kadee coupler would probably be the best thing, but I'll see if we can just bend it out. This is not a good thing to do because it will kind of change the angle of the coupler, which can lead to some issues, but I don't know. That might be good enough for our purposes, honestly. Sure, it's still way out of spec, but let's have a look here if it even will hang on a little bit. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, let's just try running it. We'll see if it can pull these cars to begin with. That's another thing. Well, apparently so. Good. Doesn't even seem like it's struggling. And there it goes. That's kind of predictable. It actually did make it a little bit further than I was expecting. Maybe just for laughs, I'll try to connect this train to the Bombardier cars, and we'll see if it can pull 2 entire passenger consists. I don't know how well this is going to go here, but I mean, if it can pull both these trains, I think things are going to be looking really good for pulling capacity. Level 4 SMT connected all together, go for it. Yeah. It looked like it had it for a moment there. Maybe it was just the slack. See, now it's just too much weight for that coupler to even handle. These Bachmann couplers are also just not great at handling a lot of weight because they flex so much. I mean, that just barely hangs on. I've had this experience as a kid with old horn hook couplers. Yeah. I think that's about all she wrote. The only thing I'm wondering is if I have a piece of equipment that maybe is like of a similar era, and it might be like a similar height. If we just get something that's not perfect, maybe then it would hang on. Let's see if this makes any difference. It did. And it goes, for a second there, it really looked like it was about to pull it off. Even with this boxcar, I think it's just a little, see, like that's actually pretty close right there. And if you kind of bend the Bachmann couplers, which is pretty easy to do, you can kind of get it about perfect. But like, the problem is once you start adding enough strain, you see what happens? Like they're hanging on and then one slips over the other, so they flex. That probably wouldn't happen if these were metal couplers. Yeah, let's try throwing a Kadee in this. It's not going to fix the height issue, but it won't flex as much, so maybe then it will work. I just don't, well, there goes my light. I just don't feel great about sinking couplers that are worth like $5 into an engine that's not really going to be the greatest performer. I'll see if I can find a bad Kadee coupler. Yeah, that one looks pretty worn down. Oh, good news. I found another one of those O-rings. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them in here. Maybe this thing's gonna be okay. And a spring. Okay. This could be a bad idea. However, I just found this, I think this is a Kadee coupler of some kind, but either way you can see that it sits unlevel with the rest of the body here. So, I don't wonder, even without the shims, if just installing a coupler like this would make up the height difference. It might be a better solution. Like, I wonder if I just clear away all the plastic that's in there and just somehow, I don't know, just glue this in place. If that'd be about the right height. The right coupler. That's a Kadee for NEM 361 coupler box. Because like that, to me, looks about like the difference. Like, we're just off by like a little bit. This would be kind of ratchet, but maybe... Okay, this is what I'm going to do. To test this out, I'm going to heat up the glue gun, and I'm not using hot glue to secure this, but we'll heat up the glue gun and just get it kind of like lukewarm, just well enough to kind of like hold this in place, and then we'll actually be able to see if, you know, this height difference is correct, and then if it is, I'll clear away the plastic, throw some crazy glue in there or something a little bit stronger, maybe combined with a little bit of baking soda, and I think that might have everything like good. Let's see here. This thing takes forever to heat up. NEM 362. Yeah, well, they all seem to have that sort of style of pocket. This is what I had to install when I was upgrading my Wakefield train model. It had this style of coupler. Or not this style of coupler, but this style of connector. Got anything from the glue gun yet? It's getting there. I guess the European couplers must be mounted slightly lower than the North American ones if they add this for the height difference. Did you watch a lot of MacGyver as a kid? Not really. Not really. I watched a lot of Red Green as a kid. That might explain a couple things. As my grandparents, they introduced me to that show. I remember one day, I don't know, I was probably like 8 or so years old. I went over there. It was around like Christmas time, and they had the Christmas special on, and that show had me like rolling on the floor. I loved watching all of his shenanigans. I can already tell just by the difference, like where the hose sits, like level, that I think that's going to be good. Truth be told, the Bombardier Athearn cars are the real problem. Those couplers are horrible. Yeah, I have had a lot of problems with those. It's a very uneven pocket. I don't know why they designed it that way. Maybe to handle corners. It's too bad, because in terms of how well they roll, especially through tight corners, they're pretty good. But yeah, that's the one thing that I've had trouble with, and I thought upgrading them to Kadees would fix them, and they're still full of problems. That looks good. That looks pretty good too. Let me see if I can find my actual coupler height gauge. I believe it's somewhere in here. There she is. Oh, that is nice. Okay, well, I'm sold. Just gonna go get some baking soda from the fridge so I can try to really make sure this thing gets well secured. I recently made some TGV cars for the Mahano TGV AVE Euromad set. I'm waiting on the first production sample to be finished. But if you want the files to have a full TGV set, tell me. All right. One thing I realized years ago versus what I know now is use body mount couplers, don't use Talago couplers. Yeah, I mean, that probably would be better, but it should be fine. So the thing I love about hot glue is at low temperatures, it's so forgiving. So now I got to figure out a way to knock this post out. I don't know what tool would be best for the job. Maybe take a blade and just sort of split it, like maybe just sort of shave it down like that. This option B could be maybe just to try to just pop the post out. That might work. Wow, that didn't take near to as much effort as I was expecting. Just try to get that nice and flush with the rest of the body so it doesn't affect the coupler's height. See if I can find an X-Acto just so I can plane that down a little. The way things are going, this is going to be a long live stream. I think we're getting close to the end. Okay, so get that there. Let's find a little bit of CA. Just need to like get this to the right level. I just want to make sure that it's actually even. That looks pretty good there. And then let's get some baking soda. And this is like a sort of a secret here. You can just put a little bit of this over the CA and then you actually drip some CA on that. And I don't know if it's like a chemical reaction or what the case is, but the baking soda will actually cause the CA to cure instantly. So you can kind of just form stuff out of nothing. It's sort of a messy method of making stuff, but it will create something very similar to plastic, which is really hard to break. You can see like that's already quite secure. Thanks for the tip. Did not know about the baking soda trick. Yeah, it can be really helpful if you, especially if you just need to fill in like a little window or something like that. The nice thing too is that you can kind of like, I mean, I wouldn't breathe this in, but you can kind of like chip away at it too. Just to kind of form it into whatever you like and then paint over it and stuff. And like, it's pretty solid. Now, let's see if that will all go together. Just trying to get some of this baking soda off. It looks pretty good. Let's check it on the track here. Bachmann's plastics are worse, especially on the Dash 840 locomotives. Oh. Okay, let's see if I did any of that right. I used a product called Bondic, and it works curing. It works and cures in UV light. I use it for all building and headlight lenses. Huh. Well, looks about spot on. Oh, yeah, it's doing it. Holy crap. Okay, well, the couplers on the Go cars failed, but still, that is crazy. This engine can haul like 2 fairly heavy trains, and yeah, it's not that bad. Just don't put that part upside down. Yeah, that would suck. Try to send it around for one more lap, but I'm quite happy with how this engine's working at this point. I don't know why it's gained traction. Like, it was struggling earlier to haul those cars, and now it just seems to do it, so... But I'm not going to argue with a good thing. Once you helped it overcome inertia, momentum kicked in. Well, yeah, I mean, once you get it moving, it gains traction. I just don't understand why earlier when I was trying to gain traction in the same spot, it wouldn't get started, and now it doesn't seem to have a problem. I got a bit of a derailment here. What caused that? Yeah, see, the couplers on these cars are also kind of bunged up. I wonder if I connected these to some other cars, if maybe they would do a little bit better. Do you know of Woodland's Scenics model inventory app and website, SMT? Do you use it for your trains and rolling stock? I can't say I have, but it sounds like a good tool. You know, honestly, buying materials for the layouts is not a very, you know, complex thing on the channel. I just go to the hobby shop and pretty much just buy out their entire stock. I wonder if these couplers are level. Oh yeah, those are really bad. No wonder this thing doesn't work. Huh. Let's see if maybe flipping this around will fix it. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be enough, but let's try it. But you see how earlier, like I had to, like the first time it did this, I had to give it a push start, and now it just works. I think I know why it didn't have traction before. The shim was making the coupler and wheels not completely on the track. You might be right. That would make sense. The car's disconnected again. Well, I don't know. I don't know if these cars are honestly all gonna work together, because I feel like there's just too many issues with those cars and too many issues with the Bombardier cars. But it did pretty much make a lap when you consider that the cars backed up to this corner, and then, you know, the first time when it almost made it all the way around, it just ended right there. So I think we can probably call it a night with this locomotive. Don't go around the mountain. There's a problem with the track. Okay, yeah, let's try that. We'll bring the cars over and we'll try just running it on the loop. I mean, I think it probably has more to do with this rolling stock having issues, but yeah, maybe on slightly better track, it will compensate for that. know why it did that. Nice job. Let it rip, yeah. Let's really bump up those volts. Crap. I was afraid that might happen. I think what's going on is that the layout is not perfectly even, so as the train, the weight kind of increases as you start going uphill, the tension maybe messes with those couplers. That or there's a height disparity that's occurred there, I don't know. Try taking that car off, it's the one giving you trouble. Okay. I'll get it on this round. I'm gonna remove both the baggage car and the first one on that train. And the coupler heights are still kind of bad, but let's try it out anyway. There's a bump in the track height that's uncoupling them. Yeah, there probably is a small one, but I still put more blame on the equipment just because, you know, if that blip was bad enough, I think every single car would disconnect, and instead it seems to be that one spot. Like, these two cars just went right over it, so. SMT, are the tracks with grass on them meant to look abandoned? If so, they're super cool. Can we get a closer look? Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, maybe there is a track problem. I don't know. See if I can spot it here. Could just be that the heat has caused these to heave a little. I don't know. I'll figure that out some other point. But yeah, I did some work on the layout, and I never mentioned it in any other live streams because the first live stream where this work had been done, it was with RBP, and so, you know, I didn't want to be hogging the live stream with all the track work. But yeah, all the disused tracks on the layout, I just decided to kind of add some greenery detail to them, and I think it just kind of blends the scenes in. I feel like this looks a lot better. And yeah, I did that on a ton of different sections of track. This one too, added ballast here. So yeah, the whole layout is getting some pretty major upgrades. Just trying to see where that gap is. Maybe it's not a gap. It kind of looks like this spot is a little bit low. I don't know. I'll figure that out tomorrow. But anyways, I think I'll call it a night for this live stream. Thank you all so much for joining in. I had a lot of fun fixing this thing up, and I'm glad it turned out as well as it did. You know, I really didn't think this was going to run that great. But that Bachmann motor has actually improved it a great deal, and with all the upgrades and stuff, I think it's actually a pretty decent puller. So yeah, I think it's been quite the success. Anyways, I hope everybody has a great night, and with that, I just want to thank you all so much for watching.